The prompt sets up a chilling mystery with a supernatural or psychological edge, perfect for a short story or novel. Here's a brief exploration of its potential. The story could center on the mother, haunted by grief and hope, as she grapples with the decision to dig behind the church. Is it a cruel prank, a message from her son, or something otherworldly? The lack of fingerprints and delivery evidence suggests an unnatural element, perhaps a ghost, a time slip, or a stalker with intimate knowledge of the boy's handwriting. The church setting adds layers of symbolism. Salvation, secrets, or hidden sins. Key questions to develop: who or what is sending the cards? A living person, a spirit, or a manifestation of the mother's psyche? What's behind the church? A body, a clue, or something unexpected like a time capsule? Why now? The 10th anniversary and the cryptic message suggest a culmination or revelation. This could unfold as a psychological thriller, with the mother unraveling her small town's secrets, or lean into horror with a supernatural force tied to the church. The ambiguity of the card's origin offers flexibility for twists. Maybe the boy never disappeared, or the mother herself is an unreliable narrator. Every year on Tommy's birthday, the card arrived. No envelope, no stamp, no smudge of ink or trace of human touch. Just a folded piece of construction paper slipped under the front door of Mary's small, sagging house on Maple Street. Each one was drawn in Tommy's unmistakable scrawl. Crayons layered thick, loops and swirls of a 10-year-old's imagination, always signed, "Happy Birthday, me. Love, Tommy." For 9 years, Mary clutched those cards like lifelines, proof her boy was out there somewhere, still holding a crayon, still thinking of her. The police called it a hoax. Her neighbors whispered about her sanity. But Mary knew her son's hand, the way he pressed too hard on the red, the way he dotted his eyes with tiny stars. This morning, the 10th anniversary of his disappearance, Mary woke before dawn, her heart thudding with the certainty the card would come again. She sat at the kitchen table, staring at the door, a cold mug of coffee in her hands. The clock ticked past 6 a.m., then 7. Her breath caught as a shadow flickered under the doorframe. She scrambled to her feet, nearly knocking over the chair, and flung the door open to an empty porch. No footsteps on the dew-damp grass, no tire tracks in the gravel drive. Just the card lying there like it had grown from the wood itself. This one was different. No balloons, no lopsided cake, no bright colors. Just a plain white card, folded once with 3 words scratched in black crayon. "Dig behind church." Mary's hands shook as she read it again. The handwriting was Tommy's, those jagged G's, the wobbly R, but the words felt wrong, heavy, like they'd been carved into the air itself. She sank to the floor, the card pressed to her chest, her mind spiraling. Was this Tommy? Was he alive, hidden somewhere, sending her a clue? Or was this something else? Someone playing a decade-long game, twisting the knife in her heart. She hadn't set foot in St. Agnes Church since the search parties gave up 10 years ago, when Father Callahan prayed over Tommy's fold, and the congregation murmured about God's plan. Mary had screamed at them then, her voice raw, demanding to know what kind of plan stole a boy from his bike on a summer afternoon. Now the church loomed in her mind, its steeple a dark finger against the sky. Dig behind it. What was there? Graves, secrets, or just dirt? By noon, Mary stood at the edge of the churchyard, a shovel borrowed from her neighbor's shed gripped tightly in her hands. The air was thick with July heat, cicadas droning in the trees. The church sat at the end of town, its white paint peeling, its backyard a tangle of weeds and forgotten headstones. No one was around, no kids playing, no cars passing. Just Mary and the card burning a hole in her pocket. She started at the back corner, where the grass gave way to a patch of bare earth near an old oak. The shovel bit into the ground, each scoop louder than her ragged breaths. She dug for an hour, then 2, her arms aching, her mind replaying every card, every loop of Tommy's handwriting. What if he was down there? What if he wasn't? The shovel hit something hard. Mary froze, her pulse roaring in her ears. She dropped to her knees, clawing at the dirt with her hands. A wooden box, no bigger than a shoebox, emerged from the soil. It was old, weathered, with rusted hinges and a faint carving on the lid, a star just like Tommy's dotted eyes. Her fingers trembled as she pried it open. Inside was a single sheet of paper, yellowed with age, and a small, tarnished key. The paper was a drawing, a child's sketch of a boy on a bike, smiling with a church in the background. At the bottom, in Tommy's handwriting, "I'm still here, Mom." Mary's vision blurred with tears. She clutched the key, its edges biting into her palm. The church's back door was 10 feet away, its lock ancient and rusted. She stood, legs unsteady, and walked toward it, the key glinting in the fading light. Whatever was behind that door, answers, Tommy, or something worse. She was done waiting. Mary's hand hovered over the church's back door, the key cold and heavy in her palm. The air felt thicker now, the cicada's drone replaced by a low hum she couldn't place. Maybe the wind, maybe her own pulse. The door was weathered, its paint flaking like dead skin, the lock rusted but intact. She glanced back at the open box in the dirt, the drawing of Tommy on his bike staring up at her. "I'm still here, Mom." The words echoed in her skull, pulling her forward. She slid the key into the lock. It caught, resisted, then turned with a grinding click that seemed to vibrate through her bones. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. No light, no sound, just a damp, earthy smell that made her stomach churn. Mary fumbled for her phone, its flashlight casting a shaky beam down the steps. They were stone, worn smooth, leading to a basement she'd never known existed in all her years at St. Agnes. "Tommy!" Her voice was a whisper swallowed by the dark. No answer. She took a step, then another, the shovel still in her other hand, its weight grounding her. The air grew colder as she descended, the walls closing in, rough-hewn stone brushing her shoulders. At the bottom, the flashlight caught glints of metal, shelves, rusted tools, a jumble of crates. A storage room forgotten by the church, maybe by the whole town. But in the center of the room, something else. A small table barely bigger than a stool with a single object on it. Another card. Mary's breath hitched. She approached, her light trembling across the paper. It was like the others, construction paper, folded once. But this one was red, Tommy's favorite color. She opened it, inside in his childish scrawl, "Look up." Her eyes snapped to the ceiling, nothing but cobwebs and cracked beams. No, wait, a faint outline, a square in the wood like a trapdoor. Her heart pounded. She dragged a crate beneath it, climbed up and pushed. The panel gave way with a groan, revealing a crawl space barely wide enough for a person. The flashlight beam caught something inside, a bundle of cloth, small and still. "Tommy!" The name tore from her throat as she scrambled into the crawl space, her knees scraping against splintered wood. She reached for the bundle, a jacket, Tommy's jacket, the blue one he'd worn the day he vanished, with the ripped sleeve from climbing trees. Her fingers closed around it and something hard fell out. A crayon, red, half-used, its tip worn to a nub. Mary clutched the jacket to her chest, tears streaming down her face. But the crawl space wasn't empty. Beyond the jacket, the flashlight caught a glint. Another key, this one smaller, tied to a string that disappeared into the shadows. She crawled forward, her breath shallow, following the string until her fingers brushed something cold and smooth. A metal box locked, no bigger than a book. The key fit perfectly. She hesitated, the weight of 10 years pressing down on her. What was in there? Answers? Tommy? Or proof that she'd been chasing a ghost? The hum in the air was louder now, almost a voice whispering her name. She turned the key. The box clicked open. Inside was a single photograph, curled at the edges. It showed Tommy, smiling, standing in front of St. Agnes Church, his bike propped beside him. But behind him, in the shadows of the church's doorway, was a figure, blurry, tall, its face obscured. Mary's blood ran cold. She didn't remember taking this photo. She didn't remember that figure. A sound came from behind her, a soft scrape like footsteps on stone. She spun, the flashlight beam slicing through the dark. Nothing. But the air felt alive now, heavy with intent. The hum was gone, replaced by a whisper, clear and close. "Mom!" Mary's scream caught in her throat. The crawl space seemed to shrink, the walls pressing in. She grabbed the photo, the key, the jacket, and scrambled back to the trapdoor, her heart hammering. She dropped into the basement, landing hard, and ran for the stairs, not looking back. The whisper followed her, soft but relentless. "Mom! Mom! Mom!" She burst through the church door into the fading daylight, gasping, the shovel still clutched in one hand. The churchyard was empty, the town silent, but the weight of eyes on her back was unmistakable. She looked at the photo again. The figure in the doorway seemed clearer now, its head tilted, as if watching her. Mary knew she couldn't stop. The cards, the keys, the drawing, they were leading her somewhere. Tommy was still here, or something wanted her to believe he was. She'd go back to the house, study the photo, search for answers. But first she turned to the church, its steeple black against the sunset, and whispered, "I'm coming, Tommy." Mary stumbled back to her house, the photograph, jacket, and key clutched tightly, the whisper, "Mom," still ringing in her ears. The sun had dipped below the horizon, casting Maple Street in a gray haze. Her porch light flickered, as if unsure whether to stay on. Inside, she locked the door, her hands trembling, and spread the items on the kitchen table. Tommy's jacket smelled faintly of summer grass, impossibly fresh after 10 years. The key glinted, small and unassuming, but it felt like a tether to something she couldn't yet name. The photograph was the worst. Tommy's smile, frozen in time, and that blurry figure in the church doorway, its head tilted like it knew she was looking. She studied the photo under the harsh kitchen light. The figure's edges seemed to shift, sharpening the longer she stared. It was tall, too tall, its limbs angular, its face a smudge that refused to resolve. But its eyes, she could feel them boring into her. She flipped the photo over, hoping for a date, a note, anything. Nothing but a faint pencil mark, a star like Tommy's dotted eyes. The hum returned, low and insistent, vibrating through the house. Mary's gaze darted to the window. The street was empty, but the shadows seemed to writhe, pooling unnaturally at the edges of her vision. She grabbed the key and turned it over in her hands. It wasn't for the church door, she'd already used one key there. This was for something else, something closer. Her eyes fell on the basement door, tucked under the stairs, a place she hadn't opened since Tommy vanished. They'd searched it back then, police and volunteers combing every corner, finding nothing but cobwebs and old boxes. But now the door seemed to pulse as if it had been waiting. She crossed the room, her breath shallow, and noticed something new, a small lock barely noticeable set into the handle. It hadn't been there before. She was sure of it. The key slid in, smooth as a whisper. The lock clicked, and the door swung open, revealing a staircase that descended into a darkness thicker than she remembered. The hum was louder now, almost a voice forming words she couldn't quite catch. She grabbed a flashlight from the kitchen drawer, her shovel too, and started down, each step creaking like a warning. The basement was wrong. The walls, once cluttered with shelves and junk, were bare, smooth, almost polished. The air was cold, heavy with that same earthy smell from the church. In the center of the room stood a door, not a basement door, but an ornate one, carved with stars and vines, like something from a church or a crypt. It hadn't been there 10 years ago. It hadn't been there ever. Mary's flashlight beam shook as she approached. The door had no handle, just a keyhole, small and precise. She inserted the key, her heart pounding so hard it drowned out the hum. The lock clicked, and the door opened inward, revealing not a room but a tunnel, its walls glistening with moisture, stretching into darkness. "Tommy," she called, her voice echoing back, warped, as if the tunnel were mocking her. No answer, but the hum grew clearer, forming a single word. "Come." She stepped inside, the shovel dragging behind her. The tunnel sloped downward, the air growing colder, the walls narrowing until she could touch both sides. Her flashlight flickered, then steadied, catching glimpses of drawings scratched into the stone, childish sketches of bikes, trees, a boy with a star-dotted eye, Tommy's drawings. Her tears fell, hot against her cheeks, as she pushed forward. The tunnel ended at a chamber, small and circular, its walls covered in hundreds of construction paper cards, pinned like offerings. Balloons, cakes, stars, all Tommy's, all in his handwriting. In the center stood a figure, tall and thin, its face a blur, just like the photo. It held a red crayon, its tip worn to a nub, and it was drawing on a new card, the strokes slow and deliberate. "Tommy," Mary whispered, her voice breaking. The figure paused, tilting its head. It wasn't Tommy, but it wasn't not Tommy either. Its shape flickered, sometimes a boy, sometimes something else, something older, something wrong. "You came," it said, its voice a mix of Tommy's and something deeper, colder. "I waited." "Where's my son?" Mary gripped the shovel, her knuckles white. The figure pointed to the card it was drawing. "Happy birthday, me, love, Tommy." But below it in fresh black crayon, "I'm home now." "You're not him," Mary said, stepping back, her mind reeling. The cards on the walls fluttered, as if stirred by a breeze she couldn't feel. "What are you?" The figure smiled, a smudge of a smile, too wide, too sharp. "I'm what you kept, every card, every hope. You held me here." It stepped closer, its form shifting, Tommy's eyes one moment, a stranger's the next. "Digging won't find him. He's gone, but I'm here. I'll always be here." Mary swung the shovel, screaming, and the figure dissolved into a swarm of shadows, scattering like ash. The cards fell, fluttering to the ground, each one blank now, the drawings erased. The hum stopped. The chamber was silent, empty, just a damp basement again, the ornate door gone, the tunnel nothing but a wall. She stumbled upstairs, the photograph crumpled in her hand. The figure in the doorway was clearer now, her own face, staring back, eyes hollow with grief. She sank to the kitchen floor, Tommy's jacket in her arms, and realized the truth. The cards had always been hers, born of a mother's refusal to let go, a mind that couldn't accept an empty porch, a missing boy. Outside, the porch light flickered out. In the silence, she thought she heard a whisper, "Mom," but it was only the wind.